Yes.
Be humble. Why is that so important to him?
It is so important because we have witnessed an unprecedented electoral outcomes that beats the imagination of many pundits. And it is important to him because he recognizes, just as there was an electoral outcome with a gap of 1 million that was unprecedented, and now we're dealing with 1.7 million that is unprecedented. It is possible that this same group of people can kick a government out with 3 million vote as a gap. It is possible, isn't it? And so when there are lessons to learn, you'll be, excuse my word, foolish not to learn those lessons. And we know the conduct and the character of the outgone administration that's, nailed their monumental defeat. And so if you're offering a new kind of leadership, you must be seen to be very different from the things you criticized about the previous administration. We call them arrogant. We call them insensitive. In fact, Ghanaians called them arrogant because they were throwing their weight about everywhere, from their leaders to their foot soldiers. They were very, very intolerant to criticisms and opposing views. People were victimized for speaking up. There was a return to a culture of silence never before seen under the 1992 Fourth Republic. There were posturings of intransigence where right-thinking voices, expert voices within the society who had views to share as a result of where they were in their experience of the economy, who cautioned against certain actions were poo-pooed. There were dissents from within, where 88 members of parliament from the NPP had cause to bravely come out to criticize their own leadership and to call for the president to resign the finance minister. These are things we hadn't seen in an era of an almost equal parliament, a hung parliament, also not before seen. You see, the signs would always be shown to us. It is whether we are wise enough to rise up to the signs. And when Ghanaians returned this hung parliament, it was a keen message to us that we are watching you people closely and we are taking back our power, because power really belongs to the people. And we only vest it in you, a few elected officials, that you may hold it in fiduciary responsibility, what do you call it, for like a fiduciary responsibility towards us. Because real sovereignty really lies with the people. A group of politicians can never vote themselves into power because they would never win an election with just their numbers. If you added all the political parties, their numbers would never match up to the numbers of the masses whose votes you require. That market woman, that woman in the village, that, who has never gone to school before, who has never benefited from the gains of progress or this democracy from very removed from the center. Villages we visited where they don't have potable drinking water. They drink very murky water, share water sources with animals. Villages with no lights. And yet, when we want this power you call, we find all the nooks and crannies where the votes are. Today, Global Info Analytics has shared some polls about the Ashanti region and the people. They did a polling of what do they call it? This word has just escaped my mind. The dynamics of the support base, of the changing dynamics of the support base within the Ashanti region for the NDC and NPP. And so amongst the junior to senior high school, those 18 and above, amongst the adults, and then amongst educated and amongst literate, how the political parties are faring. And for the non-literate band, it seems within the Ashanti region, the NPP benefits majority votes from the non-literate band. in
People without
Ashanti region.
formal education.
People without formal education. The NDC, surprisingly, actually has a greater statistics for support base within the educated class in the Ashanti region.
Okay.
And then some of the youth, the primary school, the junior high school youth. And then for tertiary, we are 38. They are 38. MPP has 38. NDC has 37.
Okay.
For that, it's a very instructive, statistics that I'm going to read. I just saw it this morning when I was on my way.
All right.
Do you see it? So just imagine the people who are the base of the pyramid, who actually receive very little of what this country should be able to do for them, are the majority votes that bring you to power. And so we must, of necessity and of good conscience, work to lift this country out of the poverty that we find ourselves.
That's the interesting point, because, and I recall when the MPP won in 2016, they kept saying that after the MPP, the NDC will not come to power.
They said we'll be in opposition for 40 years.
Yes. Why are you seeing this as a humbling experience rather than like the MP usually uses it to tell you that we'll finish your party off?
Hey, if you won't be humbled by this outcome, well, you become arrogant by it, then you don't know what the signs are. So I just want to reiterate that at the core of this government, we must deliberately, intentionally, Senna, show a marked departure from the feel of the NPP government. We must show it. Ghanaians must almost tangibly feel the difference in leadership. Okay. And that will be assessed by the conduct of the individuals in the Mahama administration, the example by His Excellency John Dramani Mahama himself, his own representation of how he wants to lead this nation. And so far, so good, you see, because he started with integrity. And it was very important to do that to restore trust, because trust had eroded significantly, in our body politic, and the trust Ghanaians had for the politicians had eroded. Many analysts also did say that it is not the NDC that won, but it is Ghanaians' rejection of the NPP. So if there is any value...
you must prove yourself an alternative for them to turn to you.
To now, exactly. Yeah. Well, you will. But if what they're dealing with is so bad, you become the easier option. Okay? So it may not necessarily, at that point of decision-making for the voter, be about, we love the NDC we voted out 8 years ago so much, but more about, no, we hate what this NPP has done. And so for NDC to now restore the love, they now have to earn it to be able to consolidate. We now have to earn it in this, that we have to earn the trust, earn the confidence. And that is not...
So you're not seeing the voter, the margin as evidence of earned trust?
No. It was protest.
Okay.
And the hope. Protest and hope. Because it is this same voter population that voted us out by a 1 million margin that reduced to a 500,000 margin, and now voted us in by a 1.7 million. There's also a basis of comparison, to be fair, because then they were saying that, even in John Mahama chapter 1, we didn't see these levels of corruption, these levels of arrogance, and yet we voted them out. Do you see it? And so if you are showing us these excessive levels, then you really deserve no returned mandate. But you, NDC, we are giving you this opportunity, but we are watching you. Feely. So it is really up to us, because if we do it right, this 4 years, we will consolidate and we would earn multiple return mandates. I believe it's in the bottom of my heart, only if the base of the party understand that this 4 years is the year of sacrifice, where we tone down our own internally expectations, where we tone down.
That will be difficult.
It is not undoable.
You have because if you look at the dynamics of your party,
Yes.
you're seeing a lot more younger people
Yes.
following your party. In fact, most of the youth prefer your party
Today.
to the New Patriotic
Yes,
Party.
indeed. That's good.
Young people really have very high expectations.
So I'm
Someone
talking,
is looking
I'm
for
talking
their
about the
first job.
base of our party.
Okay.
Those who want to come into positions and are being, pushed by maybe some want to quickly gather.
Okay.
I want to caution against greed on the side of those who are coming into these positions, to avoid greed and to stay away from corruption, so that whatever we are able to generate by way of opportunities, we are able to distribute equitably, so that somebody can get something small, many people can get something small. If we are not minded to enrich ourselves because we've been in the wilderness for 8 years and people are hungry, there's always this tendency when you're hungry and you're given food, if you don't curb your inhibitions, you will overform. So I think what I'm just doing is sending a subtle message, especially to the base. My inform.
Okay.
My inform because ye 4 years ye. Ye benye aduane edi for 12 years, 16 years. Ebe possible. Say informa, but say form 4 years yeah. We would go. So it's also about envisioning this possibility, which is realistic. It's a really realistic, possibility that worst case scenario, we have 8 years on our hands, worst case scenario. And to get that would largely depend on what you do with these your 4 years. So let us follow the example and the caution of President John Dramani Mahama, especially the front-facing members of the NDC who are today in government. It is not about you at all. It is about the future of our party and the future of this government. And it is important that we become intentional about the things that we do and what we don't do. So we will fall into the same traps that finally entrapped the Algon government, the Nana Bawumia government, and today they are in the abyss that we have become the beneficiaries of.
We'll come to some of the things that we anticipate will happen over the next few days. But before that, this seems to be a unique arrangement in this government. Typically, you have an information minister. Even in some cases, that information ministry will be subsumed under the communication ministry. So there will be a deputy in charge of information.
Yes.
At least. You don't have that.
No.
Then if you go back to the former administration, they had a whole setup at the Jubilee House.
Yes.
What you've decided to do is to give the task essentially to one man, one woman. You are Phyllis Kwachi-Ofosu's deputy. I am assuming.
As deputy presidential spokesperson, yes.
Yes. And then he is in charge of Minister of State in charge of government communication. That's a huge portfolio.
Yes.
One man.
Yes.
Is that not too much work for a small group of people?
What we will do, as we have communicated, is to run a lean and efficient government.
Okay.
That we will do. And it would also mean deploying existing resources. Okay. There's a civil service, there's an information, focusing on, the information structure or the communication structure. So now we know that there's no longer a Ministry of Information, but it's government communication, which sits under the presidency, because the presidency is truly interested in how we re-engineer government communication and set it up in a way that would stand the test of time and would be more responsive. Okay, it means reviewing quite a bit of the store structures. In fact, the Information Service Department is one of the longest institutions. Next year, they'll be celebrating 88 years.
88 years of
88 years of existence.
Older than Ghana.
I'm telling you, Information Service Department.
Okay.
And they have such talents and existing resources. With the necessary support and resourcing, we should have a very robust government communication office that is very responsive, proactive to giving the public information. Do you see it? So Felix's role remains, and we're going to be restructuring the Information Service Department to now sit under the Office of the Presidency, and then work direct oversight from the president. So that also means being better resourced than they have been up to this point, and ensuring very smooth operation. The entire work is not going to be on the head of Honorable Felix Kwakye Ofosu.
Okay.
There will be a lot of delegation to other sub-officers that will do different things. Like I'm saying, we went last week to visit the former Ministry of Information to interact with the staff of the former ministry. So what will happen is all the staff of the Ministry of Information will be reassigned because that ministry is no longer there, including the Chief of Staff. So we had a staff there, but the Honourable Minister explained the new structure and the expectation. And also to just assure them that we're not letting anybody go. I mean, within the civil and public service, the info ministry staff would just be redeployed. But Information Service Department staff, they remain, and they're the ones that we'll be working with to ensure smooth communication of government business.
Because I was wondering how you're going to run this, because already I'm seeing most of the people who help with communication in opposition being assigned substantive positions. Because I was expecting that they'll be part of a government communications machinery. But they're not getting it. And I only see Hajia and Felix. So I was wondering how that was going to play
there
out.
is still, there's always a bit of a shift when a party in opposition becomes a party in government. We still do, at the party level, have our raft of party communicators. And of course, they will still do party communication work. What we also just need to support them with is the information from government side to be able to do party communication work. And so you would see that a lot of the previous communicators from the National Communications Bureau, they are still going on radio programs and TV programs. They will not have the title as government communicators, but they are still communicating on behalf of the party which is in government.
Okay. Having said that, two things. One, has the president told you when he'll be releasing the 4 deputy ministers that
the almighty 4?
Everybody's I'm still wondering
what is the whole back?
You do real to 56. You do 56 and the 4
we zoom through and now 4 is holding back. Maybe we want to break the 4. Who knows?
Is it a difficult decision to make, because there are quite a number of ministries left without deputy ministers, and you cannot. It's difficult to tell to say that there's a particular ministry that does not need a deputy minister.
Yeah.
Because everybody can justify why they need a deputy minister.
I think some years ago when the Nana government announced 123 ministers, I wrote a post on Facebook. I was like, in the assessment of tasks, I would have thought that you would assess your tasks first before you determine your manpower needs. It's not your expectation. You don't dream oh, I expect I will do this, and I need 123 ministers to do that.
Okay.
If you look at what the approach to this first year, it is largely a year of audits of the outgone government.
Yes.
It's a year of review of their plans and programs, and it's a year of rollout of some of our own programs. This first year, that's really what it's going to be. It's a lot of deep work.
Okay.
You don't need a lot of people to do deep work.
Okay.
You need a few strategic placements to do deep work.
Okay.
For example, how many ministers, how many people would we need to think of a strategy to roll out a 24-hour economy when 24-hour economy is not yet on stream?
Okay.
Do you see it?
Okay.
How many people do we need to think of strategy to roll out 1 million CODES program when the CODES program is not yet on stream? When the CODES program comes on stream, then we would see that, okay, now this thing is bringing value. How many more staff do we need to monitor this, to be project managers of that? So you should not start by making assumptions that, okay, I will need a project coordinator for this, and then employ them at a time that these projects are not yet rolled out. So when His Excellency envisaged a lean and efficient government, it is and reduce the ministers to 23. His thinking largely is that all of you, with the support of the technocrats already existing in the ministry, you, the ministers, are providing direction of where our government has to go. But a lot of technical work. Too many people on government payroll doing way too little. Put the people to work. Let them show their expertise. If they don't have the expertise to be in that role, we have to let them go and find the expertise in that same existing role, and then put the plans and programs in place. When we start rolling out, if you need to employ consultants to oversee something, that will be justified because the project would be paying for itself. But now, where we are, we cannot say that the nation is in distress. And then our first action is to expand opportunities without just cause to ourselves. You see, the result of that singular action is what we have already gained at the labor front with the tripartite negotiations, that the labor agreed a varying down of their previous base pay to 10%. You think that if they had not seen the signs of leadership commitment to tighten the belt, starting from their own, because they know the pressures on His Excellency from within, why did you even go and announce these 60 ministers when there are so many people who have done so much work and they all want positions? But you see, sometimes what a leader would lie down and see, you, the follower, you can stand on top of a mountain, you never see it. That's why I'm saying that it's a renewed chapter, and there's a very great opportunity with the leadership of His Excellency for us to truly change Ghana around. With what we have already chalked with labor, to agree that base pay of 10%, how much is it? It's very inadequate. But even they know the real state of the Ghanaian economy.
So you admit that under normal circumstances, you should be doing more than 10%?
Shouldn't we? But look at the cost of living. Look at what people have gone through. Look at, if anybody, any group of people understands what this economy has done to families and households, it is labor. They form the bulk of government expenditure. They know. The economy beats them just as it beat many people, you know, and it will take a while to reset. So we are not saying that because we have just come in, all of a sudden money is in your pocket. We have to do the work of rebuilding this economy and making it more productive so that the opportunities will come again. People can work and earn decent incomes. And as the president said, if we are able to expand the base and we're able to bake a bigger cake, it means, Senna, your share will be a little bigger. When I come and I'm going and I want to say goodbye, if I'll give 500 Ghana cedis for lunch. Maybe I can give 1,000 Ghana cedis for lunch, on a lighter note. Though. So, but this is how when the economy reflects in people's pockets, it eases their affairs. Oh, look, we can say all the big English, and I'm saying this advisedly because I know the internet doesn't forget. But it is true that we can say we have reduced inflation to single digits. We have managed our domestic debt. We have been able to pay off our foreign debt. We are not borrowing as much. But if all of that does not count when I go to the market and the prices of food and goods and services, especially food, food inflation remains the driving force of our inflation. Food. In an agrarian society, and yet we keep saying we are an agricultural economy. Agricultural economy that cannot feed itself. It's an anomaly. So me, the Agric Minister, I'm saying that you must do the work so that when we are telling the story, it is truthful. Okay. Because if we say these things and we don't do, some of us, I won't come and talk again. I'll keep quiet. I won't come because we must show results.
Show results.
Show results. Results is the only thing that will help us. We cannot talk through the solutions.
That's a promise you've made to Labour, that you will show results, because the NPP has been critical of them.
With their cooperation and with their hard work. Yeah. What we must all see is that this win is not for NDC. It is Ghanaians who have spoken. So if you say you want change, you too must be agents of change. It means we are adopting the necessary values and attitudes towards work. So even as Labour has accepted this, if we go back and sit and cross our legs and don't do what we are supposed to do to make the public service more efficient and more productive, so that even with the little that we are giving you, you earn it. Do you see it? It will still be the problem. If the turnaround time at many of our MMDAs over simple requests is still slow, that will still affect the speed of governance. So even as we are thanking Labour, we are also pleading with them to also let their members that this renewed revival should affect everybody and everywhere. We should all put our shoulders to the wheel and work hard to increase the productivity base of our economy and make this economy strong. It means that at least this year, there will still be sacrifices that we have to make, naturally so. But as we are asking the people to make the sacrifices, we too, who are the helm of affairs, must be seen to be making those same sacrifices together with the people.
How do you respond to the New Patriotic Party when they say, you promise more, you should be delivering more? It shouldn't be 10%. In fact, they didn't do 10% the last time. They were still voted out of power.
How much did they get? Have you seen what they've done to the sinking fund that we left millions for them? We found 600,000 cedis in a sinking fund that had millions of Ghana cedis. You see, I don't want to sound like I'm in a campaign mood, but if I were an MPP member, this is not the time, because less than 2 months in opposition, your administration is under audit. A lot of things would come out. You see, that they should watch some people. Some people are not talking. Have you seen the number of their a lot of their communicators are quiet. They have a very handful of their members who are still talking, because they know that they have to wait small and see the length of the toad that is being brought out of the water. Then they can know what to say. So do you understand what I'm saying? Yeah. So if I were them, nobody will say that as opposition you shouldn't have opinions. You should do your opposition role. But on some value judgment issues, please just stay out of it.
You think they should not be criticizing something like this?
What are they even talking about? This economy that they received the highest amount of resources. So if you've given 23% or 21% as base pay, how much do you keep for yourself? Is it not them that we are talking about, just the excessive expenses that they cannot account for? Imagine what workers would have received if you hadn't pound $58 million to dig a pit. Imagine what workers could have received if you hadn't pumped $12 million into a dam that is not there. Imagine just how much workers would have received if you haven't expended so much and did so much propaganda that you are building hospitals that you now tell us would take about something $1 billion. Recently, the president spoke about it to complete. So even Labour should be asking you, with all these amounts of monies that you came in, you shortchange us by even giving us the 23. You've left us with a huge saddling debt. We are saddled with unprecedented debt as a nation. Nothing in the reserves that were left, for you. And we are under an IMF program. You know that.
Okay.
And then you can still, in good conscience, really question why Labour is taking 10%. So you mean you're more intelligent than Labour? You see, it's even an insult and an affront to the Labour front to suggest that they don't know what is good for them. Because these were negotiations. And because they understand exactly the fact that this economy is an intensive, ICU, an intensive care unit. They, the Labour, loving this country more than themselves and what they may want to bleed out of this country, accepted this. Even that, cumulatively today I was hearing just how much that the value of that 10% would cost the public purse. Over 11 billion cedis. That's 10% that you think, because it's just, imagine the cumulative effect of, you will see it as 10%, but when we get to counting it for this year, it is colossal sums of money. But we have to come up with it and pay it. So we will take good intentioned feedback or criticism from the opposition. It has to be so. But on some of these matters, I think they don't do themselves any good when they go those trajectories, knowing very well what they have done.
And since we are on Labour, one other thing which they have been critical of is that you promised to be a government for, not for NDC or MPP. You'll be a government for all. That the fact that you walk into office, and one of the very first things being done is the revocation of what is being called last-minute appointments, shows that you're already being unfair.
But you see, that was not one of the first things that we did. One of the first things we did was when we were in the transition period, and information came to us from within these same institutions that directors and some government appointees within those institutions were backdating contracts, reducing probation period from 6 months to 3 months, and even back paying, because if you've backdated the contract, you have to show that maybe you've paid these people these amount of monies, and that people were being hurriedly promoted, sometimes above the rank that they should have naturally been, or faster into ranks that they should have taken a certain minimum number of years to get to. In a spirit of good faith, we issued a statement. The transition spokesperson, then Felix, cautioning against these, activities that were happening. We issued a statement that we were hearing these things. People were sending us all kinds of evidence, extensions of contracts on people who had expired tenures in their various agencies. The counter we got was a counter release from the NPP former information minister who signed it, telling us that they are still in government until 7th January, and they are allowed to do whatever they're doing, knowing very well that less than 8 years ago in 2017, Osafo Maafo on record said they were not going to allow any such acts that they today complaining about. I'm sure you have played that video over and over for you. You see, it is the lack of integrity and consistency on their part. Over 13,000 people were laid off. NDC is doing nothing close to what they are speaking about. Nothing close to what they are speaking about. Nothing close to even the way they handled the matter. We didn't make any fuss about everything that they were doing. They made fuss, engaged in media, razzmatazz to just decriminalize. And at the time, the examples cannot compare. The examples of some of the appointments that were made, which were in the offing for a while, cannot compare to the numbers that we are dealing with today. So the point is, when we came into power, into service, when we came into service, Senna, we had to do the review. And then we find these anomalies and discrepancies, irregularities, some illegalities. You cannot expect us to perpetuate illegality. I mean, with all due respect and with sympathies to those who will be affected by these review processes. Some have, almost all the processes, the employment processes, have to be reviewed. But there's a caveat. Upon the review of the processes, those that came into their positions without any identified irregularities will be allowed to come back and continue. Those that were not illegal, but we found irregularities, these positions will be re-advertised and you can now apply and go through the right process. Because we say we are a government for the people, that we want to create opportunities, but we cannot also pretend that an election is not about a shift in the power base. And when there's a shift in the power base, those who worked for that shift to happen also deserve their right to rule. So even if you were, a lot of these people you're speaking about who are today being let go, they were political appointees. If you're a political appointee who has no political philosophy in common with the incumbent, you shouldn't even wait, because you are a part of a government with a philosophy quite distinct and different from this new government. So when your government loses an election like the way that they have, if I were many of them, I would have resigned honorably. But some are sitting pretty, waiting for them to be asked to exit, which is the natural course that has to happen. For those political appointees, they know they have to go. So they will go because new king, new law. It is fair. It is the democracy. The power base has shifted. The direction of the country has changed. You are not in this new boat because you were in this old boat. But for those who genuinely found themselves, do we come sacking chief directors and people who are rightfully employed in the civil service? Nobody does that. The civil servants, they have the greatest longevity in the public service. Many of them have transcended several ministers and several political parties. They are not really the focus of this. It is the glaring actions of political manipulations, and we know it. And yet you want to say that we should allow your people, and you see some of them have already started sabotaging themselves by already wanting to leak things. When you do this, it means that you don't have good intentions for that role. You will be let go. You will be let go. Yes.
What about, because there are many people who entered from the first term. They've been there for so long. So there's been some form of, do I call it integration into the system? You're saying that if you found nothing irregular about their integration, they stay?
If there's nothing irregular about it and they are germane to the cause, I don't think that we should just go sacking everybody. I don't think so. Or are you saying if a person is a known political appointee in a place? Is that the question?
Yes.
If you are a known political appointee there, so as for the political appointees, it is a predetermined matter. If you are a political appointee and your party is out of office, You shouldn't even wait for somebody to come and tell you to go. That is a different category of people. And even within a political system, genuine people will get employed. They will have sympathy for a party. They may have sympathy for the party that employed them or sympathy for an opposition party. But genuinely, they got that employment. Those group of people, once your process was regular and you qualified for that role, I don't think that we should show those group of people exit.
Have you been able to estimate how, because you're talking about employments at a particular period of time, particularly?
Yes.
Have you been able to estimate how many people went in?
I don't have that number.
Okay.
I don't have that number readily to share. So that was really it, because a lot of those transgressions happened after 7th December.
Does this include teachers, police officers?
There were, people were seeking that clarity, and I'm not even still clear on that.
Okay.
I'm not still clear on whether it includes those
teachers,
mass-based.
yeah.
I don't know. I'll find out. I'm not clear on that.
Well, and
doctors, nurses,
yes.
They've all been clamoring for clarification. I think that clarification will come. Yeah.
Okay. And talking about that, now let's stay with labor. Your very first strike. You're confronted with your very first strike with Clocksack. How are you resolving that matter?
Yeah. The Clocksack strike. I told you, say, when the people have been, when you have been denied something for a long time and then you get it, Charlie, the speed with which you want to, show that you are back. It's so I think that this was just a preliminary, test. Clocksack wanted to show that we are back, the system is back, freedom at last. But I mean, in all seriousness and with all due respect to the leadership of Clocksack, I think that when we want to build enduring relationships, we must do that on the basis of some level of mutual respect, you see, and responsiveness. When this matter came up, there have been engagements at the very high level. I've seen I've seen some of their leadership come to have talks because they made their issue known. We explained. I mean, initially, when our attention came to the fact that there was even a pending court matter over the same issue of appointing a non-civil servant as a registrar of the Register of Birth and Deaths. We thought, okay, if there's a court case, but the negotiations were still ongoing anyway, and we were minded by the fact that to the extent that this court matter has not been fully determined, to the extent that when we come to the legislation regarding appointment to that particular office, there's no provision that stipulates that position must be reserved for a civil servant. And we've asked the leaders to show us which provision. If you're pleading on the basis of convention, pleading on the basis of norm or some established, practice, then plead that way. But don't seek to want to hold the appointing authorities' hands to their back by insisting that your interpretation or your expectation of a continuance of the practice surpasses the power of the appointing authority. The president has the power to appoint the people that he believes he can work with. And you need to also be willing to make some compromises. What are your fears of a non-civil servant being in that position? How do we, as an appointing authority, assure you that those fears will be addressed? Unless there's something more to the picture that you and I do not know. The bottom line has to be, who is this person? What do you expect from the registrar? Give him a chance. Is he able to address those issues and lead you the way you want to be led? You've not even given this man the chance to prove anything to you. Do you see? So it makes us wonder what the real concern is about that particular, department, and the insistence of Clocksack that a mass of necessity be a civil servant. So we have made the position of government known. We are, His Excellency is a listening and a very compassionate leader. If you have a case, he would make the necessary adjustments. But in this case, it is the belief of government that they have not breached the law. There's a matter before court. If the matter concludes that the position of Clocksack is the right position, government will act accordingly. But until then, government has to form its team because the reset agenda is on course. So I would plead with the leaders to reconsider their decision, because if you're crying wolf too early, the day that the real wolf will come, maybe you will not have a listening ear. You do have a listening president. Don't erode the goodwill that exists too quickly, too soon.
So you're confident in the position you've taken?
That is the current position of government. If anything comes up later that requires a shift, we will communicate that. But as we speak, the position of government remains.
How serious is Galamsey on the order of priorities for the president?
It is serious. It would, there were some arrests, I think last week. And the president has also directed that in the spirit of making use of the resources, because these people have come up with all kinds of heavy-duty machinery to destroy our environment. And so if we catch them and we make them face the law, we shouldn't go burning excavators when there are districts that require these heavy-duty equipments to support their own road rehabilitation projects, their farm, projects. So I like particularly the directive by His Excellency John Mahama to send all of those seized equipment to the various districts within those regions, that they can use this same machinery to rebuild the environment that is being destroyed. I call something quite efficiency. We are quietly, efficiently rolling out one of the most comprehensive reset agendas in our recent history. Every sector of our economy will be touched. And hopefully at the end of the 4-year mandate, this legacy mandate of His Excellency, we would see a new face of governance and a renewed hope that maybe within this our lifetime, we would see the transformation that we so deserve as a nation.
Well, we need to take a break.
Okay.
Because there are two things that are coming up, Independence Day. But first, the State of the Nation's address.
True.
That will happen on Thursday. The president will be before Parliament to address the nation on our state. What state is Ghana in? But before we take that break, good morning, Accra. Get ready to make your day flavorful with Oliver Twist Shack. From our signature jollof rice and grilled platters to assorted meat noodles and indulgent pizzas, we've got all your cravings covered. And don't forget to pair your meal with one of our refreshing drinks or signature cocktails, the perfect way to add a twist to your dining experience. Visit us at Latibi Okoshi near Radio Gold. Yes, if you know Radio Gold, just ask anybody around our area. Where's Oliver Twist Shack? Or call them 0206 87 4225 or 0248 98 0480 to order for delivery or pickup. Oliver Twist Shack, ask for more. And of course, for your long-lasting and durable pipes, make sure it is Duraplast. For over 50 years, Duraplast Limited has been producing top-notch quality pipes for domestic and commercial, being it UBVC and HDP pipes. The only reliable and trusted brand is Duraplast. Through innovation and customer satisfaction, Duraplast also brings you the ultimate water storage tank. Water tank, the only water storage tank with a level indicator, which helps you to know the exact water level available for